The Sneaky Rich Life of Taylor Sheridan.
An interesting thing about Hollywood is if you listen, it will tell you exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
How so?
I have never seen anyone bang their head against the wall for 20 years and then make it. I've never seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it take 8 years, I've seen it take 10 years, but I've never seen it take 20.
And is that where you had come to?
I had come to where the best I was ever going to be was, 10th on the call sheet.
Imagine a life where you play the second best always. Never the leading man, never the main character. You may know him as a character on Sons of Anarchy. He was David Hale on the show, the deputy chief of the charming police. He was just a somebody in the main character's world, and that did not sit right with him. That was Taylor Sheridan's life up until the release of the hit TV series Yellowstone. And then, things changed for the better.
Recently, the Yellowstone spin-off 1923 broke the record for Paramount Network, bringing in about a total of 7.8 million viewers in just 2 days.
Yes, you heard that right. The show launched to massive public interest, and the ratings skyrocketed over time, making it one of the most realistic depictions of the West since Clint Eastwood's run of cowboy dramas. Taylor Sheridan was the man behind it all. No, he did not act in the show itself, if that's what you were thinking. This time, he did something different. He didn't show up as an actor on screen. He picked up the pen and just went for it. Somehow, some way, it all worked out.
Yellowstone was the most watched scripted series in all of television last year.
It is hard to do one thing for basically all of your adult life and then take a completely different route altogether. Sheridan dared to do that, and fate had planned a glorious path for this decision.
My least favorite subject is myself.
Yeah.
I say about everything I want to say when I write a story.
Acting became something he had dabbled in. His true calling was being a show writer, and the rest is history. For the first time in his career, Sheridan felt like he was good at something.
I don't tell people how to act. I don't need anyone to tell me how to write.
After being stuck in a rut for 2 whole decades, he finally understood what he was meant to do. His self-esteem skyrocketed, and he was the best possible version of himself from that moment on.
I don't try to create dramatic stories or dramatic characters. I try to create real scenarios based on people who I've known or who I've imagined, and then I hold the mirror up to that world.
Sheridan had insights into a genre that seemed to have been washed out. Not many people had faith in something related to the American West. Yet Yellowstone became one of the most watched TV shows of 2018, the year it was released.
I like to choose stories that take place in America's West because it's the world that I know, and also because I think it's easier to look at ourselves because the issues that face us and the challenges we overcome are clearer, they're more acute because there's just fewer of us. We haven't screwed the place up yet.
Oftentimes, when we try to do something different, we end up choosing a topic that is alien even to us, and that is the mistake Taylor Sheridan did not make. He played his strength and it worked out great for him. But he knew exactly what he had to do. He did something he loved, something he was familiar with.
Look, anytime that Hollywood says a genre is dead is because they made a bunch of bad movies about it.
Not only did he derive the story and its characters from his own experiences, but he also genuinely poured himself into his writing.
Ranching's been a part of my family for generations. It was something that my parents felt was important for us to be involved in.
Sheridan admired the West, and it intrigued him. Something that was so widely misinterpreted finally found an actual representation. It wasn't just Yellowstone. He took up a few other projects too. It was the success of his first script for 2015's Sicario and later Hell or High Water in 2016 that really built the momentum for Yellowstone.
I was just so stunned and so taken with the authenticity of that and the perspective and the realism and the way that he built tension for 15 minutes prior to that. And I just thought it was, sheer filmmaking perfection.
He knew he had it in him, and he just went for it. With Yellowstone, he admits he was an avid lover of ranches and horses, and that is what got him going in the first place.
I just make movies to support my horse habit. That's all I do.
A rancher at heart, Sheridan understood that he was done being locked up in those stinking studios. He was meant to be on a ranch, and that is exactly what he did. The creation of Sheridan's Yellowstone universe, with its multiple prequels, sequels, and spin-offs, was testimony of the fact that Sheridan had finally found something worth his while. But it didn't come easy. He had zero experience as a writer.
So look, I have no idea how to do this, but I have a 15-year education on how not to do it.
As the money trickled in, slowly but surely, Sheridan's days began to change enough to give him a net worth of a whopping $70 million in 2023, according to CelebrityNetWorth.com. According to DailyMail.co.uk, Sheridan allegedly charges Paramount as high as $50,000 a week to film Yellowstone on his own ranch in Texas, nearly $210,000 to train actors at a cowboy camp held on his own property, and rents herds of cattle out for $25 a head. But it all didn't come to him without struggle. There was a continuous tension between the actor who played the main character, John Dutton, on the show, and Taylor Sheridan.
The reason why Costner is leaving the series and taking it down with him is because of his endless beef with Sheridan. Kevin is a true collaborator, which is not a word I use very often in Hollywood. He understands the collaborative process and he understands how to bring out the best in people.
So much so that the two couldn't stand each other. The two men never really outgrew the beef, and Yellowstone ended abruptly in its 5th season. But Sheridan's plate was already full. He had so many other projects up his sleeve that he didn't have much time to grieve. Apart from this dramatic career shift in his late 40s, Sheridan also admitted to diving nose first into writing when he wrote his first episode ever.
First thing that I wrote was Mayor of Kingstown. And I sat down and I wrote the first episode in about 10 hours.
Really? In one night?
And when I was done, I said, man, I wished I had done this 15 years ago.
The Yellowstone universe took off, and then came 1883, which was preceded by 1923, that had Sheridan gather some of the most respected cast members a writer could ever dream of portraying his characters on screen. Helen Mirren and Harrison Ford entered the picture as John Dutton's ancestors.
It's ludicrous that I'm working with these people.
The making of 1923 was a feat on its own. It did not come easy. And Paramount, the production giant behind Sheridan's work, had to pay up a lot of money.
When we add it all up, the cost of 1923 is about $500 million. Yes, you heard that right. This rivals the production of Season 1 of Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power.
The production cost for 1923 was as flush as could be. According to Wall Street Journal, in one of its dedicated articles, it costs at least $22 million to make a single episode of 1923, the Yellowstone prequel. According to IndieWire.com, the publication also added the same digit for every airing episode of 1923, a whopping $22 million. The costs for Yellowstone were also jaw-dropping, but Paramount decided to bet on this man. Sheridan maintained a cowboy camp for the horses for Yellowstone. According to the Wall Street Journal, Paramount was charged $214,979.61 for the cowboy camp leading into Season 5, which lasted around a week. Also, in the same article, it was stated that about $33,000 of that was just for catering. Use of his horses was also costly. Paramount was charged $2,000 a head. You thought horse saddles were cheap? The 24 horse saddles ordered by the prop master cost a jaw-dropping $23,519.19. The saddles were to be done in the style of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and did the prop come through? Of course. How else would Sheridan have created the perfect Yellowstone universe? The reason Sheridan has made it to our Sneaky Riches video is because Sheridan was not just a screenwriter, he became somewhat of a real estate mogul as well, with a whole lot of property in the countryside under his name. According to CelebrityNetWorth.com, Taylor and his partners purchased 3 portions of the ranch. 1, 142,000 acres in Guthrie, Texas. 2, 114,000 acres that are spread across Carson and Hutchinson counties. 3, a 9,500 square foot ranch called Frisco Creek Ranch in Sherman County. He bought so much property that the success of the show was the only way to pay it all off.
He just became part owner of the historic Four Sixes Ranch, consisting of more than 250,000 acres near Lubbock, which financially means he better keep on writing hits to pay it all off.
Sheridan's methodical real estate investments were a great initiative by him. He played it super smart and bought them at the peak of the show's multiple variations. A set could never do what a real ranch did. Not only this, but according to an article published by IndieWire.com, he also ventured to buy the 266,000-acre 4 Sixes 6666 ranch, which was listed at $350 million in December 2021. Sheridan and other producers from the show bought the property for $192.2 million in May of the following year.
I believe that if I make something look real, it will be dramatic because life is dramatic.
Maybe it is all about doing what you do best and finding a path for you that you would fend well in. It does not matter what style or method someone else has, finding your true calling and letting it completely take over you may be the best typing you do for yourself. We see from Taylor Sheridan's story that you may do something for 20 years and not feel accomplished. And then one fine day, you sit and just pen an episode in 10 hours, which changes the trajectory of your career completely. He worked to preserve his culture the way no one had before him. This is the story of Taylor Sheridan, of a man who took a fresh start too late and absolutely nailed it.